HYBE has quietly reshaped Jungkook's role. Not with a public announcement, not with open discussion, but in subtle ways that only become obvious when all the pieces are lined up. His solo work, his brand alignments, the way HYBE positions him in group-related strategies, all of these show signs of recalibration. And this recalibration is not random. It looks deliberate, almost as if HYBE wants to reframe Jungkook's power into something they can contain, direct, and exploit for the long-term survival of the company itself. This silent alteration of his role is not small. It's a seismic move, because if HYBE has indeed shifted Jungkook's role, they've also shifted the trajectory of BTS's future. From the beginning, Jungkook's role inside BTS was crystal clear. He was the golden maknae, the youngest who could sing, dance, rap, produce, and adapt. In every group dynamic, HYBE leaned on him. When the group needed a main vocalist, Jungkook was the one. When they needed the face to carry global campaigns, Jungkook was the one. When they wanted someone to break into Western media, Jungkook was always first in line. This wasn't just a coincidence. HYBE shaped BTS around Jungkook's stability. While other members excelled in distinct areas, Jungkook's multi-dimensional ability ensured BTS always had a guaranteed center. His voice made BTS's sound accessible. His image made BTS relatable. His adaptability made BTS flexible enough to survive in markets where K-pop had previously struggled. In short, Jungkook was the silent foundation. He didn't need the label of leader, because in execution, he was already leading in the most critical way, carrying the performance, the voice, and the image that audiences tied directly to BTS's identity. The signs of HYBE's shift are subtle but undeniable. Fans who follow Jungkook closely have noticed how his promotions, activities, and even his silence are orchestrated differently. The company has increasingly emphasized Jungkook as an individual brand, while at the same time appearing to restrain how that individual spotlight connects back to BTS. Why would HYBE do this? Because Jungkook's solo power has become larger than the group itself. His solo tracks, even with minimal promotion, chart globally in ways that most K-pop acts can only dream of. His brand deals, especially with Calvin Klein, do not just succeed, they dominate international headlines. His social media presence, whether intentional or not, overshadows entire campaigns. To HYBE, this is both a blessing and a threat. A blessing because Jungkook's star power brings revenue and relevance. A threat because if Jungkook becomes too independent, BTS's collective brand and, by extension, HYBE's tight control loses stability. And that is something HYBE cannot risk. So instead of letting Jungkook simply grow, HYBE seems to be quietly repositioning him. Not removing his role, but reshaping it. They've tilted his image toward being a global solo star, while carefully controlling the narrative of how that success connects back to BTS. In other words, HYBE wants Jungkook's dominance, but only in ways that serve the company's bigger blueprint. Look at the patterns. When Jungkook released his solo material, the success was staggering. Yet HYBE's promotion looked strangely cautious, almost restrained compared to what his achievements warranted. He didn't get the grand campaigns others might expect. He didn't get overexposure. Instead, HYBE allowed just enough spotlight to let him succeed while maintaining an air of limitation. Similarly, in brand deals, Jungkook's partnership with Calvin Klein exploded worldwide. But HYBE didn't leverage it aggressively for BTS as a group. Instead, they let Jungkook carry it almost alone, as if they were drawing a line between Jungkook the soloist and Jungkook the BTS member. The question isn't why Jungkook got these deals, it's why HYBE didn't amplify them in direct connection with BTS. This deliberate separation suggests HYBE is reshaping how they want the public to perceive him. They want him powerful, yes, but powerful in a way that is still within their control. HYBE's quiet reshaping of Jungkook's role looks like a survival strategy. BTS is still the crown jewel of HYBE, but the group's future faces uncertainties, military service, solo projects, and the natural passage of time. For HYBE, ensuring the company survives beyond BTS means recalibrating how individual members fit into their long-term plan. Jungkook, with his overwhelming influence, presents both the greatest opportunity and the greatest risk. If he is allowed too much independence, he could outgrow HYBE's structure. If he is restricted too tightly, his potential could stagnate and fans may notice the restraint. So HYBE's solution appears to be subtle manipulation. Give Jungkook enough freedom to shine, but shift his role so that shine is always tethered to their larger narrative. This is why the alteration feels secret. It's not loud, not announced, but engineered through careful timing, calculated exposure, and strategic silence. HYBE doesn't need to tell the world Jungkook's role has changed. They just need to shape the circumstances so his role functions differently without anyone being able to point at one single moment. At first glance, HYBE's strategy may seem logical. After all, they want to protect their biggest asset. But the danger lies in underestimating Jungkook's unique position. He isn't just another idol under their roster. He isn't replaceable. He isn't even just the BTS member. He is Jungkook, the global face, who commands loyalty not because HYBE manufactured it, but because fans genuinely connect to him. By quietly reshaping his role, HYBE risks alienating the very foundation that built BTS's global empire. Jungkook's authenticity. Fans are sharp. They know when something feels off. They notice when Jungkook is being sidelined or when his natural momentum is being tempered. And when fans feel HYBE is pulling strings at Jungkook's expense, it creates tension. That tension doesn't weaken Jungkook, it weakens HYBE. This is why the shift feels dangerous. HYBE might believe they are strengthening their long-term strategy, but in reality, they may be undercutting the trust that keeps BTS and Jungkook untouchable. What HYBE seems to underestimate is that Jungkook is no longer just a K-pop idol. He has transcended that label. His success is no longer confined to the structures HYBE controls. His voice, his image, his influence, they live outside the walls of any agency. When Jungkook trends, it's not just because HYBE releases something, it's because Jungkook exists. That kind of power is rare, and it's not something that can be quietly reshaped without consequences. And yet, HYBE appears to be trying. The subtle redirection of his role suggests they want to keep him in a box that fits their blueprint. But Jungkook has already outgrown that box. Every group has a power dynamic. In BTS, while RM is the official leader, Jungkook has always held silent power. He wasn't the loudest, but he was the one the group leaned on when it came to execution. His consistency was their stability. His reliability was their safety net. By altering his role, HYBE has unintentionally shifted BTS's internal power dynamic. Jungkook's individual rise creates a new layer of imbalance. His presence is now both inside BTS and outside it. That dual role is powerful, but it also creates a question. How long can the group function with its anchor being stretched in two directions? This isn't about Jungkook leaving BTS. It's about the weight HYBE places on him. If he becomes too much of a solo force, BTS as a group risks being overshadowed by the very member who was once its silent backbone. And that isn't Jungkook's fault, it's the result of HYBE's deliberate repositioning. BTS has always been presented as a collective. 7 members, 1 voice, 1 story. That narrative fueled their rise, separating them from Western pop acts, where individuals often outshine the group. But HYBE's reframing of Jungkook threatens to break that balance. If Jungkook is increasingly pushed as the global centerpiece, the identity of BTS shifts from a 7-member group to the group where Jungkook comes from. Already, global audiences who are casual fans often identify BTS through Jungkook first. That tendency is now being amplified. This redefinition carries consequences. On one hand, it gives BTS global visibility through Jungkook's dominance. On the other, it risks reducing the other members' visibility and diluting the group's original 7 as 1 identity. That change may not be reversible once it solidifies in the global imagination. Another overlooked part of HYBE's quiet shift is the burden it places on Jungkook himself. For years, he carried the weight of being the golden maknae, but now the weight is heavier. HYBE's recalibration makes him not just a member, not just a vocalist, but the de facto representative of BTS's present and future. This role is suffocating in its scale. Every solo project he takes on is no longer just his, it's seen as BTS's extension. Every brand he partners with isn't just Jungkook, it's the proof of BTS's relevance. Every silence, every absence, every decision is magnified because his role has expanded beyond what it used to be. This burden may seem manageable to outsiders, but internally, it shifts the group's balance. Other members may feel less pressure, but that relief comes at the cost of Jungkook shouldering more than any one person should. And when the emotional balance of a group shifts like this, it inevitably reshapes the future. There is no denying it. Jungkook's solo power is extraordinary. He doesn't need extensive promotion. He doesn't need massive rollouts. His presence alone creates global noise. That kind of star power is what HYBE is trying to harness. But in doing so, they may have forgotten one truth. Star power this intense is uncontrollable. As Jungkook's role shifts towards solo dominance, BTS's group identity will always bend under that weight. The blessing is that Jungkook keeps BTS relevant even during uncertain times. The curse is that the group risks being defined solely through him, whether HYBE wants it or not. This duality is why Jungkook's new role could reshape BTS forever. If handled poorly, it could fracture the group's balance. If handled wisely, it could propel BTS into a new era where individual success fuels collective strength. The problem is that HYBE's quiet strategy doesn't look balanced. It looks cautious, controlling, and limiting, a dangerous mix when dealing with a force as uncontrollable as Jungkook. Consider the possibility. If Jungkook is gradually separated from being the group's emotional and functional anchor, BTS's foundation changes. The songs won't sound the same without his voice at the center. The performances won't feel the same without his energy grounding them. The group's global campaigns won't resonate the same without his image tying them together. Even if Jungkook stays in BTS, his shift in role changes how BTS operates. They risk becoming a group that survives on name recognition, while Jungkook becomes the one carrying their real influence. That imbalance is dangerous because once the public starts associating the group's identity with only one member, the collective loses its distinct meaning. BTS has always thrived because every member mattered. If HYBE's reshaping tilts too much toward Jungkook, BTS risks becoming a shadow of itself, sustained by one person rather than 7. The most concerning part of this quiet role change is that it might be irreversible. Once the public begins to see Jungkook as the face, voice, and sole representative of BTS, that perception cannot easily be undone. No amount of group activities, no strategic promotions, no balancing act can erase what people feel. And what they feel right now is that Jungkook is no longer just a member, he is the defining member. The one whose presence overshadows all else. If HYBE continues this trajectory, the future of BTS will always be filtered through Jungkook's role. This isn't necessarily negative, but it means BTS as a group will never be what it was before. The shift has already begun, and the longer HYBE sustains it, the more permanent it becomes.